quick, because if he doesn't come within a week of the due date, he gets induced.
He's got to give up his space.
Yes, exactly. The moratorium is lifted.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's very exciting.
exciting. Yeah, we just saw my parents yesterday. They're very excited. My sister's very excited, even though she knows she's not really going to get to see him much for the first couple of months, because she and her husband are both frontline workers. But everybody's very excited to meet him through Zoom,
Good.
and he might even make a Rotary meeting.
Hey, that sounds great.
That would be great. Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
sure, we could see him if he's on Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
You'd
could all
probably make a
say,
good program.
"Hey."
I'll try to find a Rotary cap or something for him.
You know if it's a boy or a girl yet?
Boy,
Boy. Okay.
boy, yeah.
Now, Steve, will this be your parents' first grandchild?
Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
yeah, they're very excited. It'll be my grandmother's 10th great grandchild, though.
Wow.
Wow.
She's still around. How old is she?
She's 90. Yeah, we just saw her the other day. She's still hanging in there.
She's only 90? That doesn't
Only
sound
90.
so old anymore.
Yeah.
It used to sound
She was 20, 24, 25, I think, when my mother was born, and my mother was like 27 or 28 when I was born. So, you know, we kind of waited a little longer than our predecessors.
That's good. Hi, Joanne. How are you?
Hello.
Oh,
Welcome.
hello.
Oh,
How you doing?
Paulette, I
You
think
might-
things quieting down on the Cape.
Yeah, pretty much, but weekends are always, can't go out on weekends, can't go even to outside restaurants on weekends because still too many people. Everybody
Yeah.
goes out on weekends, so. don't
Yeah,
even try that.
Svetlana's aunt and uncle were just in Hyannis. They were up from Connecticut for the weekend,
Uh-huh.
and we almost went down to see them, but we ended up going out to Western Mass instead.
Enjoy your freedom.
That's what they tell me.
oh, yeah.
We get going here.
It's only 30 years or so, Steve. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Good evening, fellow Rotarians and guests.
Good evening, President Jim.
Please join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to ask Joe Clancy to come up for invocation.
Thank you very much, President Jim. And while I'm coming up here, how about we all get ready to put our hands together for what a great job President Jim and his team have done. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
You guys and girls are awesome.
Joe, have a seat right here so people at home can see you. Have a seat right here, Joe, so people at home can see you.
Always. Okay. Sit down.
Yep, have a seat right there.
All right. Oh, look at all these people. Anyhow, thank you, President Jim, for the honor of doing the inspiration tonight. Bless this meeting with the dignity that it deserves. Let us give thanks as Rotarians to be able to serve our communities and beyond. Let us pray for peace in the world. Let us express our appreciation to the many Rotarians who have contributed to eradicating polio in the world. Help us find a cure and a vaccine to fight COVID-19. And fellow Rotarians, be safe and be healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
No doubt. Thank you.
Please be seated. Sergeant at Arms Alden Vallejo introducing visiting Rotarians and guests.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have a number of visiting Rotarians. Brian Berry from the Abington Club with his lovely wife Valerie. Welcome. And our guest speakers, Michael Wish and Peter O'Kane from the Randolph Club.
Thank you, Alden. I also see our Assistant District Governor, Joanne Tully, is on the Zoom call with us. Thank you, Joanne. So we have a few announcements this evening. Before we get into our present, we actually have a guest speaker, but we also have a big presentation this evening. But I would like to start off with a thank you that I just received this evening. This is from the Weymouth Public Schools. And it reads, it's addressed to immediate past President Lois and the Weymouth Rotary. Thank you for championing the safety efforts of the Weymouth Public Schools through your generous donation of masks. Your gift will be shared with students and staff throughout our district. Thank you again for your kind generosity to assist us to ensure the safety of our school community in these very difficult times. We truly appreciate and value the Weymouth Rotary as a school committee partner. Warmest regards, Betsy Harris. So thank you to everyone, and thank you to the district, really, and Joanne Tully for making that happen and facilitating it. That was a great program. I'd also like to call up Dave Hicks on an upcoming blood drive.
Thank you, President Jim. Yes, this coming Friday, there is a blood drive at the Weymouth Elks. It's being run by the town of Weymouth. It is in memory of my brother-in-law, Mike Chesner. We all know that story. When I called them today, they still have just 3 spots available. So anyone that's interested in giving blood, they have a 2:45 available, a 3:45, and a 4:30. So you can give them a call, or if you want to log on to redcross.org, the sponsor code is Chesner, and hope to see you there. Thank you.
That's wonderful. I'd also like to ask immediate past President Lois Struckman to come up with an update on the South Shore Council.
South Shore Council meets on the 3rd Wednesday of the month, and I've been running the Zoom meeting for a few times now to make certain it happens. And it's great because other clubs in the district all get together and we exchange our ideas, we exchange our problems, and we help each other together. And I'll tell you, you can't help but get inspired when you come to this meeting because every club is finding a way to still give back to the community. Fundraising is certainly getting creative and different, but it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to see some other clubs. Some of the smaller clubs are meeting in person. I was just talking to Mike Wish, and their club is meeting in person. If there's less than 20 people, you get away with that. Some clubs are meeting strictly by Zoom. And we're the only club that's actively doing a hybrid every week that I've found. So congratulations again to President Jim and Alden for the effort they're doing every week to have a hybrid meeting. We should really give ourselves a round of applause. President Jim actually presented about our hybrid meeting, and some clubs are reaching out to us for help on how to do it, and we're glad to help anyone on that. But fundraising, everyone's looking for new ideas, so we're all together. If anybody has some things, present it to us because we're looking for new ways to raise money. You can't do it the way you used to do it. Everybody knows that. And also some projects, some great work is still getting done in our district. Very proud to say that a lot of the community work that we've always committed to is still getting done. Every one of these clubs, it's still very active, and it's a great way to be. So I'm going to send out the link every month. Please mark the 3rd Wednesday down on your calendar. It's a great time to come. It only starts at 6:30 and we're done by 8. It's a great way to see some other clubs in our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois. And I would like to ask Gary Rayburn, past president, on an update on the Father Bills grant.
Thanks, President Jim. Hello, everybody, live from New Hampshire. I miss you all. Got some good news today. We received a district grant for Father Bills. Now, this year it was $600, so it was less than it has been in past years because actually the good news is we're feeding a smaller crowd. So that's the plus. The great thing about the grant is obviously it goes for a great cause. It's going to help Dave serve food to the folks at Father Bills. And the way it works, I always like to mention this as foundation chair, is that when you give your, $100, $25, whatever it might be to the foundation's annual fund, 3 years later, half the money we give, half the money we give comes back to the district for us to get these grants from. So, when you're sending that $100 in, know then that 3 years later, $50 of it is going to come back. I want to encourage everyone as well, if you're able to or wanting to donate to the foundation, and to see me if you have questions about how to do that. November is Foundation Month, so there's going to be a couple of good things going on. We'll let you know later, but it'll be exciting. And just want to thank you for your support of the foundation and show you how it does come back to us. So thank you, President Jim.
Thank you, Gary. And many thanks as well to everybody that works on the district grants. Paulette Boudreau, Daryl, Dave Hicks, helping with Father Bills. It's really a team effort to get these grants done. And every little bit helps. Every bit is a step in the right direction. And it's money there that's available to the club to do service. It's one of the great leverage points of Rotary, is to be able to take advantage of this. So it's a wonderful thing. I also wanted to give the club a quick update. We had a speaker a little while back, you may have remembered, Dr. Maria Azizian of the Falmouth Club, and she was presenting on the Vardenis project in Armenia. Well, if you've watched the news at all, you've noticed that a war has broke out between Azerbaijan and Armenia of late. The good news is we got an update from Dr. Azizian that when she presented to us, she was pursuing a global grant for some basic medical equipment, including an ultrasound machine, possibly an x-ray machine, and getting the elevator fixed at the hospital. Since the war broke out, because the need is so great, the government actually did step in and provide those items. But she has actually transitioned that hospital, which was doing primarily OBGYN for women in the area, many villages, to now it's more of a triage center for victims of the war. So she is over there now, and she is still looking for help, any donations that someone would like to make to her project, the Vardenis project, but now it's for more basic medical supplies. So she asked that we update the club on that. And that, is there anything else beyond that, Paulette, that I'm missing? If you could unmute yourself. Thank you.
She's just a very impassioned person about her culture and her people. And she's leaving on the 30th in a few days. And she's taking 300 pounds of supplies, medical supplies there. So anything that you can offer as far as donations, and if you can't offer donations, please keep her in your prayers. It is not a safe mission that she is going on to. And, just keep her in your thoughts and prayers. And if you can make a donation on her website, I think, which is medical, I can put it out to the group anyway a little bit later. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Paulette. And I did read on an encouraging note that there was some positive movements in obtaining peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan in this morning's paper. So we hope for that. I also wanted to mention that an email went out prior to tonight's meeting on the upcoming Board of Directors election. If you would like to nominate yourself or another member with their permission to serve on the board of directors. A quick reminder, the membership votes for 4 board of director seats each year. 3 this year are going to be incumbents that are running for re-election. There will be 1 vacant seat. This seat will be a 2-year limited term on the board. So if you would like to run, or you know someone that would be great at it, and with their permission, you would like to nominate them, an email went out. You can reach the election chair, Tom Tanner, or myself if you have trouble. And please respond as prompt as you can, because we hope to get the final elections done prior to Thanksgiving. With that, prior to tonight's speaker presentation, I would like to make a special presentation. I don't want to interrupt dinner, but if I could ask our grand prize winner of this year's raffle, Brian Barry, to come up. Brian has been a supporter of the Weymouth Rotary Raffle for many years. And on behalf of the club, we would like to present him with the grand prize this year. He has chosen the $20,000 cash prize. Big smile. Thank you, Brian. Brian, would you like to say a few words? You don't have to. Okay. Thank you very much. Brian says thank you very much. Brian and his wife Valerie have joined us tonight, a fellow Rotarian from the Abington Club. So with that, I would like to invite up Lois Struckman to introduce this week's speaker. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry, Lois. I tend to forget this from time to time. We do have a tradition here of happy bucks. And I almost forgot. So let me start by throwing a few bucks in the bottle for our guest this evening, not only our guest speaker, but our guest grand prize winners, and all the efforts that went into making this year's raffle a big success. People that are zooming in, get your happy bucks thoughts ready. I brought a lot of cash tonight. So you give me a happy bucks thought, I'll throw the money in the bottle for you. We'll start with Mr. Joe Clancy, past district governor.
Just want to put a couple of bucks in, and just delighted that past President Brian Barry from the Great Abington Club was a grand prize winner. As President Jim said, the Abington Club has been a great supporter of this raffle for many, many years. I'm also delighted to have to see some more friends from Randolph Avon Club, Mike Wish, President Mike Wish, and Peter O'Kane. So again, great Rotarians, delighted to have you here. You make all of our Rotarian clubs and organizations so much stronger. Long time. It's good. Yeah. Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, I'm going to sit down so you can see me. I'm very happy tonight to have our guest. I met Mike Wish when I was at Pets. And when he talks about the $1 Million Meal presentation, which you're going to see shortly, he is so excited and so passionate that you're going to have a treat tonight, because Mike is just a great historian about this. And I'm just so glad he came tonight. He brought Peter O'Kane to make sure he doesn't behave himself. But I'll tell you, folks, it's going to be great stuff. You're going to look forward to it. Thank you. And also to our raffle winner, thank you for your support for all these years. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Buck for the bottle. I'd like to share a Rotary story. A few years ago, I met a Randolph Rotary member, Peter O'Kane. We talked about a couple of mutual friends and had a good conversation. Also talked about a guy that I worked with had the privilege of working with for a number of years. And we refreshed that memory tonight. And Peter said, you know, I remember that you loaned us money to buy a motorcycle at the Randolph Rotary Club to raffle off. And to be perfectly honest with you, Mr. Conley, I never thought we'd raise the money. And I said to Peter, I never thought you would either. But the fact of the matter is, they went on to have 2 very successful motorcycle raffles. Peter, welcome to Weymouth Rotary.
Good evening. This seems a little silly, but I promised my daughter, who had to take a trip to New Hampshire today, that I would give her happy bucks to everybody. Her daughter, her only daughter, moved out a couple of weeks ago to keep a house with 2 other girls. But the problem was she inherited 6 chickens and has to take care of them until the person that owned the building comes back from the Midwest. And that could be as much as 2 years. But today, the chickens had eggs. And now everybody in the family is clapping for Moretta to bring in eggs every place she goes. I didn't want to do this. I promised Treacher I would.
So do we have any Zoom participants that want me to throw some happy bucks in the bottle for them? There must be someone there we go, Joanne, go right ahead, unmute yourself.
Well, of course I'm happy. I'm always happy when I visit my friends at Weymouth Rotary. And I just a special shout out and thank you to Lois and Donna for picking up my masks for me down at Westport for the Braintree Club and getting them to me because I couldn't get down to Westport that day. So thank you very much. That's what Rotary is all about, is sharing our friendships amongst our clubs. And it's so, I'm really excited to hear Mike speak again about the $1 Million Meal. Thank you.
Gary Rayburn.
So thank you. My happy bucks is that, as some of you may know, back in May, I was riding my bicycle behind Rob Lynch when he decided to stop and say hi to President Jim and his brother. And because I can't drive very well, I smashed into the back of him. Fine, thankfully, but I tore my rotator cuff. And here we are about 15 weeks later. I was back on the bike last week and my arm is fine. So thank goodness for modern medicine, and that's why I'm happy.
That's awesome, Gary. And it's never too late in the season to ride.
Exactly.
Do we have any others?
Just put Rob Lynch behind, not in front.
Larry Casase.
So this is a bit of a Rotary story, but I think we'll all recall that a number of us met with Weymouth England Rotary last week. And I was catching up with my cousin, Deborah Casase Thompson, and telling her the story about Weymouth Rotary England. And she turned out to know hundreds more about it than I did. And that when she was in high school, she participated in the Weymouth Rotary Weymouth to Weymouth exchange program. And she actually went over to Weymouth, England for 1 month in Weymouth, England, and just talked about how great a place it was. And Larry Lambros was evidently very central in facilitating that, but she said it was a great program back then, so it might be something interesting to think about.
Any others? So at this point, I would like to invite up Lois Struckman to introduce our guest speaker this evening.
Well, I am delighted tonight that Mike Wish was able to come. I've known Mike for a while, as I mentioned before, and whenever he speaks about the $1 Million Meal, he has a lot of passion, and he has a nice presentation for us tonight about it. So I called him, I said, Mike, what's your passions besides Rotary? I don't know a lot about you besides just Rotary. He said, well, Lois, I have to tell you, I'm a baseball big fan. I coach all ages. I've been in baseball for years. So if you didn't coach, folks, there's our guy right there. We have a baseball coach in our midst. So tonight, give a warm Weymouth Rotary Club welcome to Mike Wish, fellow Rotarian.
You just have to sit and speak.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. Lois, like she mentioned, called me and actually was on after the last Zoom meeting of the social council. She said, would you like to talk to our Weymouth Club? I said, okay, that works. And she said, can you put together a PowerPoint presentation? I said, no problem. So tonight, fortunately, you have to look at me, look at a PowerPoint presentation of the $1 Million Meal. And Joanne, Tully, I hope you can make to our club one of these mornings for breakfast on Wednesday mornings at the Cafe Connection. We meet live every Wednesday morning at 7:30 in Holbrook. So I'm going to start off by talking about the $1 Million Meal. And people I talk to think automatically, well, you're from Randolph, then starting the Stone Club. Well, in a way it did. So I'm going to give you a little bit of the history, preface to the slides you'll actually see. And so let's see, I'm going to start with, okay, and we'll do this. Okay, there you go. And share it. There you go. Perfect. All right.
When you want to move, this is the mouse right here.
Where?
But when my fingers
Okay.
touch it, do you see that?
Yeah.
Cursor down here?
Just give me a second here with technical. I'm getting a primer here in technical how to use this.
So this is just a microphone.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can go to this, and you can go to different
I'm
views.
used to my own computer doing this, not a laptop.
Whoops.
There you go. So first slide. There you go.
Well, that is the slide. Why is it not full screen?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Hold on.
One more second. Where's the slide?
So
Where's your, Jim, where's your house? I'm trying to get, I can't find
See it
that.
right here?
Okay, get slideshow. Get slideshow right there.
right there.
Slideshow. From beginning. Yeah, get slideshow. I can't, this is, I lost the thing. Slideshow. From beginning.
okay, and just use this. All right. So I probably need some help going along here with using this this mouse, but
That'll go that way. That'll go that
well,
way.
which way?
2 hours.
Oh,
Forward,
left.
backwards.
Okay, got it. So everyone thinks that, as I mentioned, that the $1 Million Meal started in the Stone Club. In a way it did. But actually, in World War II, because of the outbreak of the war in Europe, what happened was that a lot of the British clubs, Rotary clubs, moved from restaurants and private clubs to their homes and other local clubs. And they called these meetings, because they couldn't have regular meals, austerity meals. So the idea after the war obviously came over to the United States, and Fred Lipsky, which I'll get to in just a minute, of the Stoughton Club, came up with the idea in the Stoughton Club of starting an austerity meal to give money from their club to the Paul Harris Foundation. And Paul Harris, obviously, we're all indebted to him in perpetuity. But in those days, instead of having a regular meal like we're having tonight, the Stoughton Club decided to forego a meal and everyone come with their own food and coffee or beverages, whatever. And instead of paying $2 for the meal, which it cost at that time, it was $2 donation from each club member minimum. And that was adopted fairly easily. So what happened was, I'm gonna call a couple of years ago, I'll go back one slide here. My phone rings in my office and I'm working. And on the phone, I hear from a woman saying, "Are you the president of the Rotary Club?" I said, "Well, I'm the president of the Randolph Avon Canton Rotary Club." She said, "Well, that's good enough." So she said, "I'm Chuck Claff's granddaughter." So immediately my attention perked up because Chuck Claff was a member from the 1930s with his brother in the Randolph Holbrook Rotary Club. And as a matter of fact, there's a slide, that picture. I'm gonna show you a picture. It's actually from the thing, I think. You had on the thing there. That one right there, yeah. Okay, so what happened was she said, "Well, I have a bunch of stuff from my grandfather, and can I come to your office?" I said, "Well, why don't you come to one of our meetings?" So she said, "Well, I'll see what I can do." So I didn't hear from her for quite a while. And then she calls me again. She says, "I can't come to one of your meetings. Where's your office located?" So I said, "Oh, I know where your office is. I'll be there." So my office is in Avon. She shows up with this picture, that right there. Her grandfather, Chuck Claff's district governor gavel, his diamond pin as district governor, and a reel-to-reel tape. All right, so this is the actual certificate of election for Chuck Claff as district governor of, at that time, 795, not 795 as we now know it. So, and that's a picture of Chuck Claff. And she actually came to my office unannounced. And I finally realized why she never came to our meeting, because she doesn't live in Massachusetts. But her father, Chuck Claff's son, okay, lived in Brockton, and she was visiting her father's grave and her mother's grave in Brockton, and she came to my office thereafter with these mementos, the pin, the gavel, and the reel-to-reel tape. So she says, "I have no idea what's on this tape. I have no idea if there's anything of value. Do you know what to do with this?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." So she said, "Well, if you get anything off the tape, I appreciate if you can send me the audio of what's on that tape." So I said, "I'd be very happy to." So I'm gonna play this a short clip from this audio.
Listen
Okay.
to the story of the $1 Million Meal. Our guest is Mr. Chester E. Clark of Randolph, Massachusetts, past district governor for Rotary International and a recipient of the Rotary Fellowship Foundation Scholarship. Dr. Donna Plum is in the joining me in the process of telling the story of Rotary Foundation Week, which is being celebrated this week.
Okay, so this particular clip from this tape that I sent away, this reel-to-reel tape, is the actual box that the reel-to-reel came in. I sent it to a gentleman who converts these for many colleges and universities in the Boston area. And he called me up and said, I've got a problem here. I said, what's the matter? He says, it's a very poor quality tape. So I said, well, can you send me a clip of it? He said, oh yeah, sure. He said, but I don't think it's worth your time and money to convert the reel-to-reel audio, you know, and don't spend the money. So when he sent me like a minute and a half worth of a clip, I was shocked at how good the quality was. I said, keep going, convert the whole thing. So this little snippet you just heard was a series of five or six radio programs that were broadcast in Boston with Chuck Claff as the featured guest on a program called Listen. And the host was Howard Nelson of WEEI. All right, so. Okay, there you go. So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, when I did my research, I found that the Stoughton Club started a $2 austerity meal, and Chuck Claff was friends with Fred Lipsky of the Stoughton Club. And he asked for permission, and also the past Rotary International president, Percy Hodgson, who was from Pawtucket. He was the only Rotary International president ever from our district. He asked him permission if it would be okay to appeal around the world to all the districts of Rotary for these $2 donations. And in the tape, he refers to a Rotary Ann, and that was his wife, Mary, who came up with the actual name of the $1 Million Meal. So Fred Lipsky, Rotary International president from Pawtucket, Percy Hodgson, and gave permission, and Chuck Claff wrote letters to every single district around the world, about 270 districts, for appeals from their club members and districts for $2 checks or $2 donations. So when he contacted all these governors, at that time, Rotary had 500,000 members worldwide. And the checks are coming. This is actual photographs from Rotary International in Illinois, receiving all these checks from around the world, strictly for the $1 Million Meal. Now, the idea of the $1 Million Meal at that time was strictly for fellowships for postgraduate students from around the world. And Chuck Clapp was on a committee of 5 people from Rotary who selected approximately 125 students. Thank you, Bruce. We selected 125 students from around the world, and they can study anywhere they wanted, any university, any college. No requirements that they had to be postgraduate students, could be law, could be medicine, could be science. And one of the first recipients, which you'll hear in just a minute, was a woman from Northern Ireland, from Belfast, who came to Harvard and studied for 1 year, all expenses paid, including travel, to study at Harvard. And excuse me. So these are some of the articles at that time about the $1 Million Meal. I don't know if you can see them very well, but Peter brought the actual reprints of the articles, and he can pass them around to anybody in the room here. But Chuck Claff is featured in one of these cartoons, these caricatures, with his brothers, including Leslie Claff, who was also a president of the Randolph Club. And he's talking about this article about the $1 Million Meal. So the fellowships which were in Rotary International, covering the convention of Miami Beach in 1961. At that time, they gave to these students, the first class of these fellowship awards, was a total of $350,000 funded by Rotary International through the $1 Million Meal, strictly. And then 1962 and 63, Rotary International, because of the $1 Million Meal, again, made a commitment of those 2 years of $500,000 a year each. So Chuck Claff, for some reason, which I don't understand, it's part of my research I'm doing currently, he sort of drops off the radar regarding the $1 Million Meal and with Rotary International. Okay. Well, I don't understand it. Maybe there's some reasons for it, which I'm not. Okay. Oh, sorry. So the first recipient that attended Harvard was Diana Kona. And she, as I mentioned, she's from the Belfast Rotary Club in Northern Ireland. And one of the conditions was she was not allowed to marry while she's on her fellowship. That's an actual requirement, that she could not marry during the time that she was on this fellowship through Rotary International. Unfortunately, Dr. Kohner, while she was on a humanitarian trip to Ecuador in 1964, on her way back to the United States, was killed as a result of injuries she suffered in a plane accident. And she didn't die immediately, but she died on her way from the Caribbean back to the United States. So her work, which was concentrating on children's disease and eradication of childhood diseases and health issues, she never saw, of course, any fruitful results directly. So what I'm going to do is.
No, I first heard of it actually through my father, and I applied to the Belfast Rotary Club and attended the selection committee selection meetings. And when I was selected by Belfast, I was then transferred to the whole of Ireland and was taken from there, which I'm very glad I've won. The competition was, and the more I got into the competition, the more that I wanted fellowship, because I realized what an marvelous thing it was.
That's a short clip out of all the radio programs. She was on 4 out of the 5 radio programs that were broadcast on WEI. Again, these were 5-minute radio shows that were broadcast in roughly 1961. So the Rotary Club in Belfast, Northern Ireland, established the Diana Kohner Fund at Queen's University in Belfast, which awards grants for research equipment for the provision of technical assistance for other expenses incurred in the procurement of research and diseases of children. And the current research scholarship is to research COVID-19 in children. So her legacy lives on in the Belfast Club in Northern Ireland to this day, even though she died almost 60 years ago. That was the impact that she had going forward, and all the results directly from the $1 Million Meal that Chuck Claff spearheaded strictly, as I mentioned before, for the fellowship of postgraduate students. That was the only goal initially of the $1 Million Meal. Okay, so that's the short history that I have. And when I got this tape, which is roughly 30 minutes long, I was extremely excited, to say the least. There's a lot of history there, a lot of history I've been developing about Chuck Claff, Diana Kohner, trying to put it all together with Rotary as to all these letters that Chuck Claff. Remember, these are the days before fax machines, computers, etc. And here he writes almost 270 letters to all these districts around the world, appealing for $2 donations from club members to fund the $1 Million Meal. You know, and even says on the tape that the $1 Million Meal is not the strict fundraiser or the primary fundraising goal of Rotary. It's just one tool to help fundraise. So the last time I looked at a Rotary International budget online, there was $10 million devoted by Rotary International for scholarships for postgraduate students. So that's a tremendous legacy in itself. You know, all because it started with the $1 Million Meal. You know? Yeah. I'd be happy to. Any questions?
We'll end the share screen in case
Yeah.
anyone on Zoom would like to ask a question as
Sure.
well.
Sure, thank you.
So if anyone has a question, Mr. Connolly in the back, and if you could, repeat the question like after you.
Sure.
I'd like to elaborate a little bit for us on Fred Lipsky.
Can't hear. Can't hear.
We were taught, only been around Rotary for a few years. But, we were taught that Fred Lipsky was the father of $1 Million. So now, this is my first awareness of the great involvement of the Randolph stuff. Randolph stuff was pretty close to each other.
That's right.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on that, please?
Well, that's a great question. The question was, what's the relationship between Fred Lipsky and the Randolph Club as far as the $1 Million Meal? Chuck Clapp, he and his brothers took over when their father passed away in the late 20s, had the MB Clapp Box Company out of Brockton and Randolph. And many people, of course, worked in the area. So Fred Lipsky and Chuck Clapp were very close friends, and they socialized together. So obviously in the conversation on it, we have no record of any type of conversation or writings between the two, at least at this point. Maybe I'll be lucky to get some type of transcription of between the two, you know, letters or notes or whatever. Got together and said, you know, Chuck Clapp said, would you be willing for me to try to publicize this worldwide and rename it, as my wife came up with the idea of the $1 Million Meal, because we have 500,000 members around the world at $2 each, that's $1 million. And Fred Lipsky was apparently willing to share or give credit to Chuck Clapp with the endorsement of Rotary International to name this the $1 Million Meal. So I wish I had more direct evidence of the friendship that they had together, but obviously it was there because, as you mentioned, Arthur, that Randolph and Stoughton are right next to each other.
We have a question from someone on Zoom.
Yep.
Go right ahead, Paulette.
Okay, I just recall several years ago, we had a big celebration, a district celebration for, and I wasn't sure what year it was, for the $1 Million Meal. And maybe Joe Clancy could help because I think it was during his year as district governor. So I just ran upstairs and got my district directory and looked at Charles Cleff, and he was district governor in 1960, 1961.
Right.
And that was 60 years ago. So I think it was the 50th celebration that we had in the district that was in 2010. And we had a big district celebration. It was at White's in Westport. It was recorded. Joe Clancy, you're there. Do you remember that?
She's asking to remember the 2010 $1 Million Meal.
The celebration, the 50.
$1 Million Meal. Paula is asking if you remember the 2010 celebration.
50th, it was the 50th, I think it was the 50th celebrate 50 years of the $1 Million Meal. So now would be, maybe my math is not good. Now it would be 60 years since
Right.
the Yeah,
That's right.
Joe doesn't remember. I remember because I was part of the celebration we met. Okay, sorry.
Like I said, this came to my attention 2 years ago. And at that point, like every other Rotarian, I knew about the $1 million meal. But when Chuck Clapp's granddaughter brought this tape and so forth, that she had no clue what was on this tape. And of course, I sent her the complete audio version of it, and she was very happy about it. I had no clue about and neither did she, about her grandfather's role,
Right.
Creating this fundraising project.
Well, it's certainly, it's a memorable thing, and it's very, we've been doing this for years. It's worthy of, I think, sending into the Rotarian. This is a story that is remarkable, and that should probably be sent to the Rotarians so that the whole world can know about it. That's right here from our own district.
Okay.
Mike Lipsky, deserves a lot of credit. He was a member of the Stoughton Club. Then later on, he became president, and he was the district governor of Rotary. But they worked together, and Chuck Clapp asked for if he could go around. And when he was district governor, he went to every club. There were 47 clubs in the district. He only talked to the clubs, talked to the presidents, whoever. And when they raised money, they raised $6,509.40. And then for Chuck Clapp went up to Rotary International and presented that money. But there would have never been a $1 million meal if it wasn't for District 795. If Chester Clapp went around to the clubs and no one liked the idea, no one had a meal, they wouldn't have gone forward. He wouldn't have written those letters to, every district in the Rotary. So District 795 deserves credit for the $1 million meal. Chester Clapp, there's a lot of credit to go around.
Right.
This is one idea with one person. The whole district deserves that credit.
That's right. By the way, you mentioned $6,500 that was raised just from this district, 47 clubs. That's the equivalent today of roughly $100,000 just from our district alone. That's pretty remarkable. It was about $1,500 over goal.
It was only 2,800 members of those days.
By the way, Peter O'Kane has been a member of Rotary for over 50 years. Any other questions before they throw me out?
Any other questions on Zoom?
No? Okay. All right.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
It's amazing history, and it's even more amazing, as Mike said, when you consider the time in which it was done and the legacy that it left when these people had no idea how far it would go. And yet today, whether it's 50, 60, or 90 years later from the photo, it's the same ideals of Rotary go forward and change the world. I think it's most fitting as we come into the Foundation Month that we think about the legacy that every dollar makes when it's spent through Rotary International around the world and in our district. So what a great program. Thank you so much, Mike and Peter, for taking the time to come with us tonight. And thank you to our grand prize raffle winners. If there is no more business, yes.
Someone comes up with an idea before you know it, just like with our own club, back some years back, I don't see Tony here, someone came up with the idea to help out on the Safe Passage project and up where it is today. So again, the power of one.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody that was able to join tonight from other clubs as well. We saw the Holbrook Club on. And have a great evening and enjoy the rest of your week.
Bye, everybody.
Night, everyone.